think that is something that I'm going to remember for the rest of my life.
And it just makes me so excited for the future of Plan With Us. I just can't wait to see what more we do or what comes next. Good morning, Plan With Us pod.
Welcome to the Plan With Us podcast.
We're doing things a little differently this morning, you guys. We decided that it was time to catch up. It was time to check in. It was time to review some stuff. We made our morning coffee, and I kind of like this format. It's like a chill with us, coffee sesh, girl time. I love it. What kind of coffee you have today, girl?
Oh, I just have a good old cup of joe, good old cup of schlep. I got just some house roast coffee with a little milk, little sugar. This is literally my morning cup of coffee. If you're watching on YouTube, we're very casual today. We're in our jammies, not a lick of makeup on the face. We're just like, we're also recording much earlier than we usually record. So we said, we need to have a little just like, number one, just catch up with me and my girl and our people. Number one, just like a chatty hangout session, but just make a little coffee time, a little morning coffee virtual date.
As you can hear, my voice is still croaking. Like we literally just woke up. But
what kind of coffee do you got, girl?
Well, I can't do anything simple. Pray for me, you guys. Of course, I woke up and I was like, I gotta make it a little special. Me and my Nespresso have been besties because I'm trying to save money on coffee. So I got the caramel coffee pods. So this is a full like cup of coffee from Nespresso. And then I made a cinnamon and vanilla steamed milk or foam, to put on top. So it's quite delicious.
That sounds delightful. It's a Saturday right now, and on our Saturdays, me and my husband very greatly cherish our coffee time. And I even said in my wedding vows that I vow to make him a cup of coffee every Saturday for the rest of our lives because we just always have Niara's like melting. Because I don't know, it's just like a very special, cozy time. But he likes just very plain Jane coffee. So during the week when I'm making myself coffee, I love playing around with the Nespresso and things like that. But on the weekend, I just like have the good old coffee pot, the house roast coffee, just like it's very comforting.
You guys, just so you know, the Raneys are the cutest couple ever. They love each other down, okay? When they talk about their love for each other, I'm like,
That's very sweet of you to say. Yes, I'm very lucky, very in love. But yeah, we just needed a little like catch up time. A lot of things have been going on, things that we meant to discuss in the last episode that somehow we completely we're so focused on the topic at hand, the topic of self-love. It was so important that we missed some very important things to fill you guys in on. And we've also had some very right out the gate episodes this year where we're like, let's just lay this information on you. They've been very deep, very serious. You got to take notes. So we wanted to switch it up a little bit this episode to keep things. I always say we're going to keep things light, and then we have some sort of like revelation mid-episode. So I'm not going to promise anything, but we don't really have an outline. We don't really have a plan for the Plan With This pod today. And I think the last time we did an episode like this was our second episode. We had like a summer catch-up episode, but now it is the depths and the dark of winter. So we're having a little winter catch-up episode.
But yeah, as you were saying, a lot has been going on, and it's just important to have a check-in. And we really just wanted to talk to you guys about our amazing event we had last month and kind of what went into that. So even though this is a chit-chat, not really structured episode, we are going to talk about how we planned it, how we got there, what happened, so you guys just know what's going on.
The recap, spilling all the tea or spilling all the coffee regarding our episode, as we needed something a little stronger than tea this morning. We had our second ever Plan Your Year With Us event this past January 16th. I was super excited how the event went down, for the event, how it came to be. Like, I was really excited to get right out the gate running with our very first official Plan With Us podcast event. Because, I mean, when we did our first event, rewinding back at the beginning of I love every time I say rewinding, Niara does like this motion. She does like this dance.
I'm rewinding. Last time I had sound effects, but I thought I'd just like keep it to myself and just I'm rewinding with you.
I love it. I love it. But our first ever event, which was back, I'm like, what year is it even? It was the beginning of 2024. And that was just at Niara's apartment. And we did everything ourselves. And it was very cute and small, but very successful. But back then, we weren't even doing the podcast officially. That was just a collaboration between me and you and our small businesses at the time, really, in collaboration with our Instagram lives that we were doing. So when we started to do the actual podcast, of course, in our minds, we'd love to do another event similar to the one we did this past year. But I honestly didn't think it would happen so soon. Like, I wasn't entirely sure if we were going to have a Plan Your Year with Us event. And then you reached out to me and were like, yeah, like the Family Mosaic Center wants to have an event with us. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy.
Well, what I think is so amazing about the event is that the people that came to our first one were truly inspired and taken aback by the community that was built there. And one of the attendees was one of my coworkers who works at the Mosaic Center, and she is their program director. So she is constantly looking for amazing things to bring the community together. And when she reached out to me about hosting a Plan Your Year event and she wanted us to host it, she just really wanted us to implement exactly what happened at the previous event at this center. And it was nerve-wracking. I was like, oh my gosh, like we're at an official place, like, oh my gosh, this is getting more serious and everything. But it was incredible. And I have to admit something. Putting on the table here, guys. That one, I was scared again. I was really scared because I was like, oh my gosh, this pressure, because now we're tied to an actual business, an actual place. So, you know, it's got to be great. It's got to be good. So pressure was on. And then the group had a possibility of being much bigger. I was like, oh my gosh, like, how are we going to deal with all these people, everything like that? And then also, we were dealing with complete strangers. The event we did before was a little easier because I knew most of the women that came. I knew most of them pretty well. Some of them I hadn't spoken to in a couple of years. There was familiarity there. But this one, truly reaching out to the community and inviting in people to our workshop that we literally have no idea their background, don't know what they're going through. We want to be like, make sure we're sensitive to their lives and what's going on and things like that. It was just like a whole different amount of like pressure that went into this. I don't know if you felt the same way.
It was very similar, but very different to our first event. We didn't have to consider as many things of like, they were going to provide lunch. And I know previously we provided the food and we were like running out to Wawa last minute to like get our what is that? Not the box of Joe. I forget what they call it at Wawa, but the like box coffee and like pastries and things. And we were running out literally like 20 minutes before people were supposed to come, like racing against the clock. So those were like stressors in the first event and just like making sure we had everything set up. But the center was covering all that this time around. So I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so lovely. We sort of just need to show up and, you know, do our thing and talk. But there were added stressors and like, is the program that we did last year going to work for this group of people? Because we don't know anyone. Like, what are things that we thought worked when we did the previous workshop? And what are things that we'd want to cut? What are extra things that we might want to include? Like, there was paperwork we had to do and releases we had to sign. And because we didn't know who was coming, we weren't able to like photograph anyone's faces of like people who were coming to the event, which was obviously totally fine. But it was a lot more sensitive in the fact of like the people who the family center is interacting with. I guess they're people who are in need and who want to learn. And we had no idea who we were going to encounter. And we didn't really have a lot of experience working in that environment in general. So we really were walking in just like, all right, we'll see how this goes. But I honestly think it could not have turned out any better. Like, I think that is something that I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. The women that we met and the conversations that we had, and just how encouraged and excited everyone was about what we were doing. Yeah, well, before we went in, we were sort of like, okay, this will sort of be a test for if we want to do these events in the future. And when we were walking out, we were like, we will definitely be doing these events in the future.
Because previously we had 8 of us. At this event, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us, including us.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like the intimacy of it, especially since these women were women we did not know, we were really able to hear them and learn about them and understand how what we were doing really impacted them. It was so heartwarming to hear like how much they were inspired by this, and like when it got to the point where they were decorating their Proud of Me jars and had their journals, and you can tell it was a time for them to really like relax and then make it about them, because most of those women do a lot of things for others is what we were learning, and they don't make time for themselves or aren't able to have an escape from the realities of their lives and things like that. And so it really felt like a blessing to give them those 2 hours of reflection and a little bit of excitement and I don't know, some kind of like joy and something to look forward to and empower them. And it was really amazing. And it kind of put into perspective really what the workshop could be.
Mm-hmm.
And the more that we could do, because I remember in the car we were like debriefing, we were like, oh, this could be like a service we offer, or we could like partner with facilities, or we could do this and the third. Like it just opened up to truly what this could be, not just a little like powwow with girlfriends, which is always fun and something we can always do, but truly impacting our community. And I think that was really powerful.
Because it felt all almost similar to us having like a podcast session, us having a podcast session in like real time. So we were saying a lot of the same things that we say in our podcast, similar to like, if you need an accountability partner, like we're here. And that meant so much to them. Like we walked out the door making 3 new friends. And we knew so much about these women and so much about their goals and their hopes and their dreams. And they felt so encouraged to have tools to help better accomplish them. Because another thing that I took away was, obviously you and me have conversations like this all the time. We meet up, once a week or once every other week, and we have this whole conversation about like goal setting and things like that. But that's not on the forefront of everyone's minds all the time. So they were hearing things and learning things that they had never heard about and learned before. And it was really refreshing to like see their eyes light up when they had like a realization. Or a lot of the stories we heard were of women who are putting their families first, putting other people before themselves. And they walked in the door and they were like, this is my me time. And we were like, good, because we're going to make it all about you and your hopes and dreams and how you can implement a lot of the things we talk about in this podcast in your life in the future. When we're talking on the podcast, we can't see, people's reactions to the things that we're saying. But in that moment, we could. And I was like, wow, this is really powerful. This is like more powerful than I thought it would be.
I was cracking up at some moments because they were like, did you guys go to school for this? Like, are you guys like professionals? And we're like, nope. Do you guys get paid to do this? No. We're like, this is just something that we love to do. And we just wanted to do it with you guys. And they just thought like, oh my gosh, like that is amazing that these young women are taking the time out to just spend time with people at the center, spend time with them. And it really also like clicked in my brain at that time, like you don't have to be an expert in anything to help your community. You don't have to be truly like, you don't have to have like a certification or things like that. And I think a lot of barriers that are sometimes put in the way of people having like imposter syndrome in these moments, which I usually have a lot, which I think I'm not qualified to do something, I think like that. But just spending time, lending an ear, speaking positively into their lives, creating tools and things that work in our lives and giving it to them, so that they can feel more empowered in their life. It's just like, it was just so amazing to feel empowered myself and then see how much it empowered them as well. And I think that was so incredible.
One of my favorite moments from the entire day is when the women one by one, left. Not all of them could stay for the full workshop because they had things to attend to, things to do. But by the time the last woman left, the coordinator came in the room and she was like, you realize every single one of them, as they were leaving, came up to the front desk and asked for you to come back. And that meant like more to me than anything. I was like, oh my gosh.
Like, yeah, now we have to do a check-in. These women were like, yeah, when I put stuff in my proud of me jar, when I finish filling out my workbook, I'm going to want to show you. We have to talk about it. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, then we got to go back.
They were talking about bringing their friends. They were talking about bringing their daughters. They were talking about just like coming back and bringing people with them. And that was just so validating and empowering, that the message needs to be spread and heard.
And I do want to take this time too to really thank Alma, who is the director and coordinator at the center, and thanking the Mosaic Family Center for giving us this opportunity and allowing us to take up space and connect with the attendees there at the community center. And I really hope that we do it again, either at that center or whatever we plan on doing. I'm not sure, we have to talk about it, but I would love to go back to the center, maybe, do that mid-year check-in, or maybe do it at some point and reconnect with these women.
I definitely think there will be many more workshops and things in the future. And if you're listening right now and you want to collaborate with us on a workshop, give us a ping, let us know. Because I definitely think, obviously we love doing the podcast, but I think it could become something in the workshops and the podcast go hand in hand. And I think that is the full vision for the Plan With Us podcast.
Yes. I do think that the way that the event went down really opened up the possibilities of what Plan With Us is, or what it is that we're creating. And to see every iteration of things that we've done together, and how it started out with just conversations we have together naturally, us going to dinner with our friends and then being like, you should start a podcast, you should do this, and moving into the live show and our events, and then the podcast, and then the community center event. It's crazy to see the progression of it, and opens up my mind to just really what this is supposed to be or meant to be, and how much more we could do, and the possibilities are just endless. And it just makes me so excited for the future of Plan With Us. I just can't wait to see what more we do, or what comes next.
Yes, and it's such a baby of a project. I'm just excited to continue to have fun, because ultimately, we do have full lives and jobs and things outside of doing the podcast. But ultimately, I think I've said this to you before, that it's supposed to be about having fun, and it's supposed to be a passion. So I'm excited just sort of to continue to have fun, continue to work on it, and to see how it expands and unfolds, and all the different opportunities that will come our way. So basically, I'm saying we aren't going anywhere, guys.
Yeah, no, not at all. I look forward to my chats with my girls so much. It's also it's just a check-in with ourselves, to ground ourselves and what's happening when life gets hectic and insane and crazy. And prior to us recording this, we were talking about how this has been the longest, craziest January ever to exist. And but to look back and just think about this event in the middle of it all shows how the craziness of life doesn't have to get in the way of the fun you can have, or something that you want to do. There's really no reason why you can't start something amazing, or start doing something you've always wanted to do, there's no reason why you shouldn't do it. So I hope that as our community grows and what people see us doing, that's also encouraging for you guys to know that like you can start that thing that you've always wanted to do, and it doesn't really take that much money or time, or it just takes passion and proactiveness to just get it started.
And there we go, getting deep. There we
Sorry.
go. It happened. No, don't apologize. It happens every time. And I think that's why we love it. That's why we love these conversations. But yeah, it did really feel like a beacon of light in the middle of like a really crazy start to 2025. It's still the highlight of my year. I'm so excited about it, and I'm so excited to continue. Hi, everyone. It's Jess checking in mid-episode. I hope you're enjoying this week's topic just as much as we are enjoying chatting about it. Right now would be a really great time to take a little break, get a drink of water, and to follow Plan With Us podcast on all of our platforms. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can get a notification every time a new episode goes live. You can also get exclusive content, updates, and clips from our favorite moments over on Instagram. You can find us on both of those platforms at Plan With Us Pod. Leaving a review on your favorite podcast listening platform is also a great way to show us support. We appreciate every single review that is left, and we appreciate every single one of you. So without further ado, let's jump back into the episode.
I feel like this is like a mini pod, a mini
I know.
show. Yeah, but that's okay. I know not every episode has to be so long, but this is really truly just a check-in, a recap, touch base for our little community that we're building. We don't want to forget anything. We don't want to we want to make sure we're being grateful and show gratitude to everything going on. So that's really what this was.
Well, did we want to I know we sort of touched on the highlights, but did we want to quickly chat through like the progression of the day? I know we were sort of going to talk about like the actual things that we talked about.
Oh yeah, let's do it. Let's do that. Not that the day was a blur, but I got to think about the whole day now.
Because I know the girlies are going to want the tea from beginning to end.
They are. And if our previous event girlies are listening as well, we didn't forget about y'all either. Okay. Yeah. So this was just something that happened this year. But yeah, so walking through the whole event, because this is still Playing With This pod and how the whole day like panned out and how we planned the event. So it was from 1 to 3 at the Mosaic Center. Miss Jess does not live near me. She lives about an hour away from me. So she got up bright and early, came to scoop me up, and we had coordinating outfits. I don't know if you guys have seen on our Instagram. We was looking so cute.
We were looking so cute. And there somehow happened to be a purple theme throughout the entire day.
When I tell you guys that Jess and I are always on the same wavelength, and then when we showed up and like purple was the whole vibe, we were like, okay, this event's about to be popping. Like we already know. She had on a purple sweater, so I threw on this like brown and purple sweater. Our so styles cute. Again were like, oh my gosh, we looked so cute. Our styles were still our own, but we were so cohesive. And then we showed up and they were like purple tablecloths and like the everything was all set up with the food. It was just like so beautiful. There was like music playing. There was a lo-fi channel we had on. And the conference room was really nice. Conference room.
It felt very cozy for being a conference room. I mean, like they captured our essence also beautifully because yeah, we literally had like the lo-fi music playing and like all the craft supplies out. And then we had a little snack station with the water. Gotta have water at a Plan With Us event. We had some chips. We had some sandwiches. Because this was a luncheon event. So as we were sort of talking through everything, it also just felt very casual in the sense of we're going to have a little break in the middle to, if you want to like intentionally eat your lunch at that time, but please don't hesitate to like go get a snack, go get some water. If you're hungry, get a sandwich, girl. You know, we don't want you planning on an empty stomach. And at first when, you know, we walked in, we set everything up for the event and the women started to come in, we were standing at the front of the room We were standing with the lo-fi little it was on like a little TV, a little lo-fi stream behind us. Actually, no, we put on our podcast. We had
We
the
did.
podcast playing so that people could get context of like who we are and what we do, which was mildly embarrassing for me because as much as I am a podcast host, I hate hearing my own voice. So it was like on the screen, and then I would speak and I'd be like, who is that? So that was playing for a little bit. And then we put the lo-fi music back on. And then we started like introducing ourselves like you would at like a lesson or something like that. But it just felt so strange to be standing up and looking at these women. I'm like, we're going to come sit at the table. So then we were all just like sitting around the table. And immediately that made the environment a lot more like casual, just like girls chatting. And I also think that sort of immediately opened everyone up to just sort of like having conversations. And yeah, I loved how much everyone wanted to give their input. There wasn't anyone that I felt like didn't want to speak. Everyone was, because the women were also surprised when they walked in the room. The Mosaic Center hosts a monthly women's luncheon. So
Yeah.
they knew that some regulars might come. It was also snowing that day. So we weren't really sure who to expect, how many people to expect because the weather wasn't great. But they were like, we do have some regulars that will probably show up. But they walked in the room and they're like, what's all this? They're like, I didn't know we were getting into all this today. But they were so ready for it. They were so
They were
ready to
into
participate.
it. They were into it. And yeah, sitting at the table and like actively doing it with them was how we were able to like really connect with them. And it was like so interesting because each person that walked in, we even had a person that walked in later, but got right into it. Like didn't hesitate. She was like, okay, I'll take a booklet, I'll do this and that, and was talking and everything. And it felt like in the beginning, some of these people I thought were going to be shy and not want to speak up. But no, once we sat down, they were firing off. Like they had things to say. It was interesting to hear like their stories and things that they're going through in their lives as well, because they were able to share some very personal things or some things that they just realized that were going on in their lives that need to change, or they were reflecting on themselves. And I just remember one moment I want to share, like by the end of it, because we initiated everything that we did at a previous event, the notebooks, the Proud of Me jars, we added journals from the center, things like that. But when it got to the Proud of Me jars, I remember one of the ladies who was a caretaker, and she was like, oh, I'm something I'm gonna be proud of. I'm gonna buy a special perfume for myself and treat myself. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like it really opened them up to realize that they are special and they are valued and they are worthy, and to take time for themselves in this moment. It was so nice. Like they had me cracking up. I love them.
Yes. The realization sort of as we were working through these things. And I think the worksheets were important, obviously, to have structure in the workshop itself, but the conversation flowed so effortlessly that I think the conversation was a lot more important than actually writing things down. Because
Yeah.
we were also saying, if you don't get to everything today, obviously these are resources you can take home and you can sort of work on this, whatever time works for you. And they were genuinely excited to do so. And they were excited to have their journals and their Proud of Me jars. We also had like stickers and like washi tape and things that the center provided. And they were like decorating their Proud of Me jars with the washi tape. I'm like, I never thought of doing that. That's so adorable. And they were just so enthusiastic about it. Was there one activity in particular that you think was your favorite?
When we got to, so rewinding again, in our workbook, we have
Gotta do the rewind.
we have specific pages that break down specific things when it comes to planning your year. So we had our first page that was about reflecting. I feel like that page was really important because it showed the women like all the amazing things that they had done last year, even though they didn't realize it. But after that, we have our goal setting, and then after that, we have our self-care plan. And I think when we got to the self-care plan page, I think that really took all the women back to be like, oh, this is how I really care for myself. And the things that they were saying of how they could take care of themselves, the things that they need, what they realized, like things they needed to take away. I really love that page because I think that's where they really got expressive. To be like, oh, I want to start doing this, or, I've always wanted to take care of my hair in this way, or, I want to start working on my body, or I want to start doing this. Like, I think that that's really where the conversation like started to pick up towards the end. And I know we had started to like lose some participants around that time because it was getting towards the end, but that page I think really stuck out to them and stuck with them. I thought that was like one of the best parts. Did you have a favorite page or activity?
I think that was my favorite as well, just because we did our 2024 reflections, we did our 2025 goals, and I was super excited to hear about everyone's goals, and they had lofty goals. Like they were not holding back. Some of them they're like, this is a silly goal, but we're like, no, that's not a silly goal at all. Hearing the validation from not just us, but like the other women there. But once we got to the self-care plan, and they realized that this is something that you can intentionally make time for, and it's something that you can plan into your day, and it's not just something that like, oh, when I have time I'll get to it. Intentionally taking time for yourself to take care of yourself, and here's a sheet of things that you can do, I think was really eye-opening for them. And they were like giving each other recommendations because they all lived locally. And like, oh, where do you live? Oh, I live here. And this is a really great place. This is a really great thing to do. I'm going to come here for this workshop because they do multiple workshops, obviously all year long. And they're like planning when they can like meet back up. Like it was so many cute conversations going on. And it just felt like a bunch of girlfriends like hanging out and chatting.
And what I love about that page is I think the self-care plan worksheet like epitomizes what Plan With Us really focuses on. The focus of the Plan With Us podcast, of why we do this, is to implement self-care as something that is a necessity and has to be implemented into your life, has to be intentional. And you could tell that a lot of these women, and like we had said before, like they don't put themselves first. So in that moment when they were like, what are the things that I need for my mind, body, and soul to be the best person I can in 2025, it all came like full circle in that one moment. And I think that's when it kind of clicked to me how this event needs to keep going, and how we have to keep reaching out to the community and meet new people and implement these things, because women don't think about themselves first. Most women don't. And as we talked about in our last episode, not in a selfish way, but just remembering that you are a human being that needs care and love and attention. You need your TLC, and making sure that you implement that into your life. And I think that's probably the biggest message that we can share as the Plan With This podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. It really brings it all back, and it really makes it feel full circle. I think that's sort of what I was trying to say earlier, and how I'd really love for the workshops to expand and the podcast to sort of just like meld together. And it felt so seamless. I think that was the other thing that I was so amazed by, is that we're really hitting the message home, and we're hitting it strong, and it's being very well accepted. But yeah, we did our worksheets.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about our Proud of Me jars, which they were all so excited because, like I said, the weather wasn't great that day. So we were given a range of people who may come, and it ended up being on the smaller side of the range, which was perfectly fine with us because we were a little intimidated by the amount of people that they said could come. We had extra supplies and things, and they were like, oh, like, I love this idea. Can I grab an extra jar to bring to my girlfriend? Can I have an extra folder? I want my daughter to do these worksheets. And we were like, yeah, absolutely. Please spread the word about, what you learned, and the practices that you want to implement into your life. So I will be very curious, when we go back, because it's not an if, we will. I hope those women can come back and let us know what they've been implementing, and, what sort of impact it has made on their year. Plan your year with us.
I think it was great. I think I enjoyed it. I think the women enjoyed it. I did also really like the affirmations page. I think that's one of the best pages on there. That's something that constantly needs to be added on and stuff. But by the time we got to that page, we had basically one person left, and we really got to connect with her for that. And I feel like that really made an impact to her, because she's like, has little children and, you know, was expecting and things, and being a mother. I'm not a mother. I don't know what it's like to be a mom, but I do think how important it is for mothers to see their value and take time for themselves. And I felt like such a blessing to have her there for that moment, because it was her time to speak those affirmations to herself.
I would love to do a workshop for the moms, you know, for them to have some like intentional time to maybe do like a self-care plan and affirmations and things and hear feedback from them, because I'm not a mother either. I have 2 cats, but I'm not claiming to even know a drop of what goes on when you have another human life to take care of. Reaching out to the moms out there, we love you. The world can't keep turning without you. And yeah, I think the affirmation page at our first workshop was my favorite page. And I think it is in general just like one of my favorite practices. Because again, it's something you need to very intentionally take time for. And a lot of people sort of assume that these things will come naturally to you, but how you intentionally speak to yourself is so, so important. Exactly like we were talking about in our self-love episode earlier this month. When we bring it up to people, a lot of people don't think about planning those things. Like plan how you're going to speak to yourself seems like a very foreign concept. But if you are working towards a goal or, working towards something in particular, how you approach that in your own mind matters a lot and can impact the result, which I think people were really resonating with. Overall, A+ event. Would happily do it again.
We would love to do more events in general, like whether it's implementing this workshop or having some other kind of event. We've talked about some things here and there about potentially what we want to do this year, or some kind of workshops or events that we want to put out into the ether and see what happens. But yeah, girl, I think that we really did our thing, and I really enjoy having this experience with you, because I don't even think there's anybody else that could be the other side of my coin the way that you are, be my other half like you when it comes to these kinds of things.
Love you, girl. Get the millennial hearts going.
Millennial hearts.
Same person, different font. Yeah. Because I couldn't do this by myself, without a doubt. No.
As always, thank you so much, guys, for taking the time to chat with us and hear us gab on, as we do. Again, this is the Plan With Us pod on all platforms. Well, Instagram, YouTube, RIP TikTok, but that's where you can find us, is Instagram and YouTube. We stream on all streaming platforms, so be sure to subscribe and engage with our content so we can keep doing these amazing things in the community and keep connecting with you guys the way that we do. But yeah.
Yeah, you can find us on any of your favorite podcast streaming platforms. We always appreciate reviews being left and keeping up with what we're doing, because obviously we're going to have a lot more going on. And we hope that we can see you at one of our future workshops when we, plan our next one and put that information out there. But we hope that this gave you a little insight into what we're thinking about for the future and how you can be involved. Super excited to go on this journey. And have a wonderful day, because it is nice and bright and early in the morning.
Have an amazing day, you guys. We love you. And bye.
Bye.